Welcome to a fresh episode of Platypod Perspectives, where every single time we show an amazing image, like this one, that photographers look at and they go, how the heck did that professional photographer shoot that image? That's just absolutely incredible. And this time out, our photographer of the day is a photographer. He's a cinematographer, and he's currently working as a commercial photographer. Paolo Cascio, thank you so much for joining us. Paolo, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Larry. I'm honored to be sharing this story and this image with you guys.
Yeah, it's an incredible image. And you sent this behind the scenes. I saw some behind the scenes shots, just amazing. And it's 138 members of a choir, right? And so I'm going to show the image and ask you to kind of unpack how the heck did you do this?
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. I'd gotten referred through a friend of mine locally here that he's part of this choir. He's actually in the picture. I think he's in the second to last row, wearing towards the middle. And he said, "Hey, I got this choir that I'm a member of, and we need to get a group shot. And they've got a couple different dates that they need, and they use these images to promote them traveling all over the world to sing in different locations and things like that across the country. And they're very well known, actually. And I didn't really know much about them, so I met with them. And the previous picture that I showed, there was only about 36 people.
Oh, okay.
I was up in a sound booth up on the second story of this church. And it was real easy. I had my assistant down there running around and positioning lights, and I just had a nice high angle and everybody looked great. And she said, "Yeah, we need to do another one in February, but we're going to have it might be up to 100 people." And I was like, "Okay, well, what does that location look like?" So I went and scouted it. It's a church near my house in Sun City, Arizona. And there was a lot of recessed lighting up in the ceiling that was shining straight down. And I'd gone there a couple different times of the day just to evaluate what kind of ambient light was I going to get. I initially set out to shoot it with strobes and some additional continuous light. And as it turned out, I needed a lot of power. I mean, if I would have had 4 more lights, I would have used them. And so I work with Aperture. They're a big supporter of mine, and I use that lighting all the time, a lot of times for stills and, obviously for the video work that I do. And I ended up climbing up on a ladder, which was about 5 feet shorter than I needed because 138 people showed up and I was planned for 100. So we had sort of roughed in the first 4 rows or 5 rows, which was as far as we were supposed to go. And it turned into, I lost track. I think it's about 8 rows deep. I was like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. And obviously the focus is very important to carry it from the front to the back. And so I ended up shooting at an F9, and I was at 10,000 ISO. And I'm shooting with the Canon R5C, which I literally was a week old. I barely had navigated through the menus. And I called my rep, Charles Zablon over at Canon. And I said, "Hey, what do I do?" And he goes, "I just split it halfway down the row and then just, shoot it at deep stop." So I really had no idea what was going to happen here. And the big challenge was, of course, 138 people, all in the proper position, sort of side to side, and having some type of symmetry, because obviously the closer people, the field of view is much narrower as the people that are in the back of the room. And now it's like, okay, now I have 138 people that have to have their eyes open in this shot. And so I shot with a burst. The continuous light was the only way to accomplish this. I have a little technique that I use. I don't know where I learned this from. Actually, I think I learned it from shooting actors' headshots in Hollywood. A lot of times we would go out to the beach or some type of location, and the sun is very bright. And so I would do is say, close your eyes and just relax. And I'm going to count to 3 and then open your eyes. And your eyes are much more relaxed as opposed to, the Clint Eastwood squint that people have when they're out in bright sun. So I just told everybody in the group, this is how we're going to do this. Close your eyes. I'm going to count to 3. When you open your eyes, I'm going to shoot. And I just machine gun trigger down this whole thing. And believe it or not, there's a woman about 2 rows deep. I'm not going to point her out. Every single picture, her eyes were closed. And I'm like, I can do a face replacement if I need to, which I actually had to do 1 face replacement. Out of 138 people, I'm like, to me, that's a miracle. So there was 4 setups we did for this, and I think I shot about 106 pictures. and we had to pick 4. So my retoucher actually did the background knockout for me because I was I was overwhelmed as it was just taking the picture. I didn't want any more stress and anxiety from having to do the knockout and put the great background in there. But I did do the retouch on it and sort of put my color grade on it that I normally do. Really proud of it. It came out great. They were ecstatic. They're using it right now to promote their next event. So that was it.
I wanted to ask you, the depth of field is managed. You've got everybody in focus, front to back, left to right. And yes, you can see there's some optical distortion in the image. It's going to happen. You've got a little bit of that kind of thing going on. But if you look at the individuals in the image, it's very flattering to each person. And I'm curious. I mean, I understand that you did the machine gun approach to get everybody's eyes open as much as possible. But how did you come up with the focus and doing all that in post? How many total images are in the one final image to come up with really just one image?
Just one shot. Yeah.
It's incredible that you did that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a rough ride. I mean, my background is, worked on a lot of really big feature films and movies and episodic TV in Hollywood where there's a giant crew and you have anything you could possibly want at your disposal. And, as photographers, sometimes you show up and you're surprised by somebody throwing you a curveball or, I think I told you initially when we spoke, I was going to shoot this tethered and there's no way I would have been able to do it because I was 13 feet up in the air shooting down on these people. This little beauty right here was the saving grace for that shot when I was up on there because, we had to make sure that there was the lock off, obviously, because if we have to do a face replacement and somebody goes like this, a lot of these people were a little bit older and they don't sit still like you would hope that they would. When I say, everybody hold it really still and then click, 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 click. I got to tell you, Larry, I was really impressed with the new Lightroom update that they did with, they're using AI now for denoising. And I think that was a big part of how we were able to get such a great image. Obviously, there was a little bit, I think I did use a little bit of perspective adjustment in Lightroom. I think I just tipped it forward just a tiny bit just to try to bring that back row up a little bit. But anything... we want to get a gesture, right? It's not about open your eyes and smile and that's a good shot. We want the expression to be there. And I think that's a great thing to think about as photographers. You want to have something in focus. You want to have it well lit, but you want people to look like they're having a good time. And this is a choir. And so that's when your sort of shtick, if you will, the antics have to come into play where you have to entertain people a little bit and crack jokes and go, okay, everybody close your eyes. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, open them. Like, oh, sorry, I got to do another one. My eyes were still closed. I forgot to open them and everyone's laughing. And so now I've got the crowd working with me and not like, okay, how long is this guy going to take this picture? We've been standing here for an hour.
Well, Paolo, it definitely was a success. I can't get over how great this image turned out. How can people find out more about you? Do you do workshops? Do you do any kind of training, anything at all to help folks out?
Yeah, I've been teaching a workshop for the past 5 years called Filmmaking for Photographers. And my next workshop is actually going to be at Film Tools in Burbank, and that's going to be sponsored by Sockler. Really excited to be doing that. It's all about teaching photographers how to transition into the filmmaking process and how to use fluid heads as opposed to ball heads. It's a hands-on workshop. It's an all-day event. It's about 6 hours long. It'll be posted on my website pretty soon once we get the date and the itinerary locked down. But it's been very successful, and it's always exciting to share knowledge and with people and help them along and help them discover their artistry and also just master some of the mechanics that are necessary when you're starting off.
Well, there was a lot to this shot, that's for sure. Paolo, thank you so much for spending time with us and revealing how you shot 138 people at 10,000 ISO, and it looks that fantastic. We really do appreciate it. Shots like this are just amazing, and we love being able to bring these kinds of folks to you. If you like this kind of thing, please make sure you mash that like and subscribe so that you never miss out on another episode of some incredible training from the Platypod YouTube official channel. And tune in again next time because you never know what you just might learn on Platypod Perspectives.